ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track. And ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
I am very excited about this because a play that I have been very eager to see, which I've heard a lot about, and which is based on a true story, is a play called Crazy About You. And it deals, at least in a pretty significant way, with one of the most important figures over the last 200 years. Somebody that has played a pivotal role in psychology and psychiatry and has really been one of the few human beings that has actually become a mainstream adjective. I'm talking about Sigmund Freud, the longtime psychiatrist, the guy that is known just as much for his mustache as as what people are doing in their dreams. And there's a new play out. It's a new romantic comedy about Freud. It's called Crazy About You. You don't necessarily think of Freud and romantic comedy in the same sentence, but now you will with Crazy About You. I'm very, very pleased to welcome the director of that show, Michael Christian, and in a minute we're going to say hello to one of the stars of that show, Michael Shapiro. Hello, Michael.
What a pleasure, Frank. I listen to you every night. It's so exciting to be here talking to you.
I love that you're here. I love your energy, and I'm sure Freud would have a field day with the level of excitement that you have in being here. Hey, tell me about this show, Crazy About You. I know it's playing at the Producers Club on 44th Street in New York. It's gotten a lot of attention. There's a lot of buzz about it already. This is the first place it's ever shown, a world premiere. It's showing now. How did it come to be? How did the idea for this come to be?
25 years ago, in my vocabulary building class at Boston College, I had to entertain my students, so I developed skits. And that semester, we had skits all about Freud. And I knew a lot about Freud because my father was a psychologist, and I had psychology all my life. I had my first ink blot test when I was 7.
Is that true?
It is true.
What did you see in that ink blot test?
I saw butterflies and I saw like monsters, because I was always getting disciplined.
What you do with this show that I think is very interesting is we're going to meet the unconscious in just a second, but you incorporate the unconscious as a character. Incorporating Freud's unconscious as an actual character, it's a pretty bold move. I could definitely see it going awry. What inspired this choice? How did you ensure that the character of the unconscious doesn't upstage Freud himself?
Well, the idea was that nobody could see the unconscious except Freud. So when Freud is analyzing his patient, Princess Marie Bonaparte, the unconscious comes in and starts to caress Marie, and she feels this force, and she is startled by it. I got the idea. I don't know. It just came to me because I wanted something different, and a character like that is extremely different.
What I love about your show, and I haven't seen it yet, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. It's showing until the 22nd.
Yes, that's correct.
Is Freud's theories, they're often seen as very heavy, very complex, but your play takes a comedic approach. What do you think Freud would have thought about this kind of portrayal?
I think he would have had a sense of humor about it, but at the same time, I think he would have been frightened by the criticisms that we're making because, for example, he thought pretty much all women were hysterics, and we make a lot of fun of that. Plus,
is that not accurate?
It is not.
No. Okay.
Well, let's put that aside for the moment. But he also approved of a operation on the nose to cure hysteria, which went totally awry and almost killed Emma Eckstein.
Wow.
And Bella Nasso plays Emma Eckstein, and she has this operation that almost kills her. And this really happened.
Did he do as much cocaine as everybody says?
He did cocaine so much that he got addicted to cocaine, Frank.
Wow. The play explores Freud's relationship with his daughter, Anna, in a comedic, chaotic way. Do you think that the father-daughter dynamics in the play reflect something universal, even for people that may be totally unfamiliar with Freud?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. I based a lot of my interplay between those two on the work of my favorite playwright, Molière. And the father-daughter relationship is extremely important in French comedy, especially the Molière comedies, where the father prevents the daughter from marrying the people that she wants to marry. And in this case, she wants to get together with Dr. Sandor Ferenczi.
You mentioned Princess Marie Bonaparte a minute ago. Princess Marie Bonaparte introduces Parisian fashion and dance to the Vienna Psychoanalytic Society. Is this historical accuracy? Is it satire? Is it a little bit of both? What do you think it says about the clash between high culture and intellectualism?
Well, it is imaginative.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Yeah.
Princess Marie Bonaparte was very helpful to Freud, and she was high culture. In fact, Sandor Ferenczi called her Your Majesty, and she helped Freud escape the Nazis. Freud and his daughter Anna went to London because Princess Marie Bonaparte used the resources of the French government to help him escape certain death.
Wow. If people are just tuning in, we're talking with Michael Christian. He's the director of Crazy About You, a new romantic comedy about Sigmund Freud. In a moment, we're going to introduce you to Michael Shapiro, who plays the unconscious in this play. If you're interested in potentially getting tickets, it's showing in New York at the Producers Club on 44th Street. You can go to newluxtheater.com. That's new, L-U-X, theater.com, or just call 914-237-7794. Excuse me, 914-237-7795. That's 914-237-7795. How do you direct, Michael, an actor playing something, and I'm going to find out how well you did with this in a second, playing something as abstract as the unconscious? Were there any challenges in visualizing or interpreting this concept on a stage?
Absolutely not, because I'm a firstborn. I have a younger sister and two younger brothers, and my entire life is telling people what to do. So directing is just it's the easiest thing in the world for me. And so I have my ideas. I tell the actor, I want you to do this. And even though it's an unusual thing where you're an unconscious, becoming manifest, they do it. And you get the idea and you bring it to life.
So Wilhelm Fleiss's disastrous surgery is a historical event.
It happened. Yes.
How do you balance the humor and tragedy in moments like this? And what do they reveal about the risk of, idealizing experts in any field?
The way I balance it is I like on the stage to see women suffer. And in this case, Emma Eckstein suffers on stage. She almost hemorrhages to death right in front of the audience.
That moment when you realize your skincare is actually working. That's Rodan and Fields, the #1 female dermatologist-founded skincare brand in the U.S. Designed by 2 dermatologists who don't just know women's skin, they know how to formulate for it. Rodan and Fields, love what you see. Tap the banner or visit rodanandfields.com/Spotify to get your exclusive welcome offer.
Impact confirmed. The Slayer has been activated.
Demonic threat level increasing.
Hold the line!
All the power of hell cowering before one man.
id Software presents Doom, The Dark Ages. Available now on Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and PC.
Rated M for mature.
This episode is brought to you by Principles. Ray Dalio, legendary investor and New York Times best-selling author, wants to pass along his understanding of how countries go broke, because he believes the U.S. budget and debt situation needs to be addressed. To give you that knowledge, he has put the draft of his book, How Countries Go Broke, The Big Cycle, online for free. It's available now at economicprinciples.org.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
You just want to see the women suffer?
Primarily.
Really? Okay. Well, my wife could give you a whole show, let me tell you.
But men too, a little bit.
Now, Michael Shapiro is also in studio. He plays the unconscious in Crazy About You. Michael, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Your role as the unconscious sounds pretty fascinating and a little bit surreal. How do you prepare to embody something so intangible? Do you draw on personal experiences or specific emotions to bring it to life?
Well, I mean, I think that, there's a lot of mysticism about the unconscious, but I'm playing a guy on stage, and so basically I'm playing, for example, if say I'm Freud's unconscious, a beautiful woman walks in the room, she's his patient. He's got to be professional, and he's acting all professional, but meanwhile, I'm like, oh my God, I want to do this to her, I want to do that to her. I'm expressing everything that this guy is feeling deep buried underneath what he's aware of. But it's a very, human thing, and very, I think it's pretty easy to, play an impulse like that.
No, that makes sense when you put it that way. Do you also play Dr. Wilhelm Reich in the show?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, I do.
You play Wilhelm Reich. That's a real historical figure, as Michael just alluded to. How do you distinguish between the two characters on stage? Do they share any, surprising similarities? Other than they both look like you?
Well, it's funny. They honestly, it seems like it's the most fortuitous that these two characters were paired together, because Reich, all of his writing was about sex.
Right.
He wrote about desire and impulse and the mind-body connection, and he also went into some very out there theories about microscopic beings called bions that made up all living matter, and he was laughed out of town because of that. But with that character, I honestly got a little mad scientist with it. This guy kind of slowly drifting, his grip on reality is slipping, and he's trying to tell the world about his discovery, but nobody takes him seriously.
It sounds pretty interesting. Keeping in mind that we're on radio and that there may be certain words you can't say, if the unconscious could talk in 2024, what do you think it would say about the world we live in today? How does your portrayal reflect or critique modern society, if it does?
What would he say on about what would he have to say about today?
Yeah, exactly.
The modern world?
Society we're living in today.
Get off your phones.
That's it, huh?
I don't know. And I don't know. I think people don't really change. I think the times we live in change, the technology around us changes, but people are mostly the same throughout history, and they have the same urges, the same id, the same superego, and the same ego as they did in the time of Freud. So I think it's all mostly the same.
Have you found yourself thinking at all about your own unconscious differently since taking this role?
Oh, no, I ignore it outright.
You do?
Just as policy,
okay,
yeah.
That's good. Probably good advice for everybody. We're talking with Michael Shapiro and Michael Christian, two of the people responsible for the new play, Crazy About You. It's playing in New York until December 22nd. If you want to get tickets, you can certainly do so at newluxtheater.com. For either of the Michaels that want to tackle this, Freud's ideas are both celebrated and criticized today. Do you guys think this play makes his theories more accessible, or it highlights their absurdity for a contemporary audience?
It makes them more accessible because people now can see the unconscious manifest, and everybody has an unconscious. And your unconscious is working at all times. Even when you're asleep, it is working. So what audience members will get will be a very nice easy introduction to some of his primary ideas, especially about how the mind works and how it influences us. And I truly believe that his ideas would help to explain the phenomenon of the interest in drones.
Tell me how.
Because he wrote a book called The Future of an Illusion. That was about religion. But drones, the way they're talked about today, are an illusion. An illusion is something you see, for example, a reflection in a desert that isn't what it is. You imagine that it's water you can drink. Well, people see a seagull in the air, and they imagine that it's a drone. Or they see a piece of paper floating in the wind, and they imagine that it is a spy ship from China.
So I'm looking up in the sky, looking for drones. I'm more likely to see them.
Yes, it's a manifestation of an unconscious fear that people have, and it's an illusion. And they're not from China. And all of this talk about drones is madness. It's really madness. And Freud would be the first to point that out.
So the play delves a bit into love and madness in a pretty comedic way. Do you think we're all a little mad when it comes to love? How does that idea resonate with the audience?
I think that everybody is, very, very passionate about things, and when they think about it in retrospect, they say, "My gosh, what was I doing?" And in this case, the unconscious drives Dr. Sandor Ferenczi, crazy for young 16-year-old Anna Freud. And so, he has this relationship with the daughter of Freud, and it makes Freud extremely mad. Freud wants to kill him.
James Bastone is here as well. He's the executive producer of the play. James, thanks for making the trip in.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And from all of your perspective, if Freud were alive today, what would his Twitter feed look like? Do you think he'd analyze memes or become a meme?
What I think I was telling one of my friends is that, Freud had a lot of ideas about transference, which is basically like you fall in love with people like your parents. And as a 23-year-old man in society today, what I find is you have the manifestation of, and this is not a point, I don't mean this in any sort of way, I just say it as something that I notice is women with daddy issues is something that I think Freud was very keen on early on, right? Because you have a lot of people who don't have positive father figures in their life, but me as a heterosexual man deals with it more romantically with women. You have women that search out men that are somehow toxic in some nature. So I think that would be something that he would make a notice of. I also think that the unconscious is really interesting with the manifestation of parasocial relationships. And then I'll wrap up. I know parasocial relationships in the sense that you see people now. You're a wrestling fan, I saw. I listened to your Eric Bischoff interview.
Thanks.
You have people who say that they hate this wrestler or they love this wrestler, but they don't actually know this human being. Even with sports, I hate this guy, but you never actually met him. And even with politicians. And it's even more accessible now with Twitter and social media. That's just an interesting unconscious level. I think Freud would have something to say about this idea that this is like my friend or my enemy based off whether or not they agree with my insecurities in life or whatever, something like that.
So the play touches on a lot of universal themes. We mentioned love, jealousy, misunderstanding. What can the average person who's never read Freud take away from the chaos of Crazy About You?
Yeah, I think when you've got when you have a when you have a feeling that is, Michael, do you want to take this?
Sure, because I think that people will learn about the man who is considered one of the most insightful people about things that are going on in our minds that we don't have control over. And I think that everybody has heard of Freud, and people will learn a few amusing new things about him that are really true, and things that he did, and the way he analyzed women and put them all into one category of the hysteric. And I think that would open people's mind, but they would also see the stupidity and the idiocy of some of the things he did, like agreeing to a surgical procedure on the turbinate bone in the nose under the idea that it would cure hysteria. What it did was it put this woman into such a traumatic situation. She had to get 10 years of psychotherapy.
Wow.
And he was the one who gave her the psychotherapy. So it was like endless. He was an experimenter who made a lot of mistakes. He had a lot of great ideas, but he, at the same time, he made a lot of mistakes. And to me, it's hysterically funny just to talk about it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Well
you,
said
Michael.
for both of you. One of the settings is in a Vienna restaurant. If the unconscious were to sit down at a modern dinner party, what do you think it would order? What kind of conversation would it spark?
How did you know about that?
Oh, I'll do my research.
Oh, my gosh, that's so funny.
What would he order? I mean, I don't know. The first thing that came to my mind was macaroni and cheese. I don't know if there's any logic behind that, but I'm going to trust what came out of my own unconscious to answer that question for you.
Perfect. I like it. I like it. Okay. Freud's work revolutionized how we think about the mind. You've alluded to a few of the ways, Michael. How do you think Freud would have reacted to, you talked about the drones, modern day psychological trends, self-help books, Instagram therapy influencers, or the rise of what they call mindfulness?
He would have hated it. And the reason is he was a self-promoter par excellence. He wanted his way and only his way. He would not allow even Carl Jung, one of his closest associates, to have differences. And then when Wilhelm Reich started to have slight differences, especially about focusing on sex, he claimed the guy was totally off his rocker. Yeah. Freud wanted his way and only his way, and he would have objected to virtually everything that modern psychiatry is doing.
Obviously, Freud's ideas are complex, sometimes a little controversial. In your opinion, Michael, which of his concepts could benefit today's society most if we embrace them more openly?
Well, I think that one of the most useful things that he did, Frank, was that he allowed people to speak in therapy sessions. And many, many people develop positive results from these therapy sessions. One of our people in our company, the New Lux Theater Company, has been in therapy for 7 years and loves it. So that, I think, is one of his greatest contributions to mankind.
James, you mentioned pro wrestling, and there's so many similarities between the worlds of pro wrestling and reality TV. If we look at Freud's theories, they often delve into the weird and wild world of human behavior. If Freud had a reality TV show of his own, what would it be like? Which modern celebrities would he find most interesting to analyze?
Whichever ones are still doing cocaine, I'm sure, right? But no, I think it's interesting what everyone said about Freud is that, and I even think today, like you hear some people, idealize Freud, right? But at the same time, there's people that question a lot of his theories, and especially in this play that's really happened with the Emma Eckstein incident. So I'm not sure exactly who we would have, but I think what's interesting about Freud, about society today is, Freud's an intellectual, and there's a bit of an anti-intellectual spin now, I feel like, in our culture, right? We reward like TikTok influencers and kind of like brain rot activities is almost like a joke now. I'm sure you're well aware of that with all the news you read or keep in mind with. So I think Freud, to disagree a little bit with Michael, might be a little upset with everything's going, because even though we're gaining all these resources, the intelligence level of people is not going by any conceivable measure that much higher. So I think that's interesting.
All right. This has been a lot of fun. James Bastone, Michael Shapiro, Michael Christian. The play is called Crazy About You. It's a new romantic comedy about Sigmund Freud and psychoanalysis, and it's written by award-winning playwright William Kane. You could absolutely get tickets. We got to do it quickly, though, at newluxtheater.com. That's newluxtheater.com, or you can call 914-237-7795. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you so much. Frank. Really appreciate it.
This was a lot of fun. All right. I'll continue with your calls in a moment. 646-720-0635. That's 1-646-720-0635. Straight ahead.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. BetterHelp recently surveyed over 16,000 people and found that while 75% of people believe it's wise to seek support, only 27% of Americans are in therapy, and people stay silent to avoid being judged. BetterHelp has over 10 years of experience matching you with the right therapist. Because we're all better with help. Visit betterhelp.com/stopthestigma for their first ever State of Stigma report, the latest in mental health research.